There is a woman somewhere in America right now, a widow, who is getting by on a smaller check than she's owed. She lost her husband a few years back, and she's careful with money, the way careful people are. What she doesn't know is that the check arriving in her account each month could be hundreds of dollars larger, because part of her late husband's Social Security has her name on it, and it's just sitting there unclaimed. Nobody called to tell her. Nobody mailed her a form. It's quietly waiting for her to raise her hand and ask. That woman could be you, or your mother, or the neighbor 2 doors down who waves every morning. And the difference between the smaller check and the larger one often comes down to one thing she was never told. So here's exactly what I'm going to hand you today, and I want you to hold me to it. By the end of these few minutes, you'll have the one phone call that can raise a widow's or widower's check, and the exact thing to say when someone picks up, so the money that's owed actually starts coming. You won't have to remember a list. You'll have one number and one sentence, and I'll walk you right to them before we're done. I want to be gentle here, because for a lot of you, this isn't a money topic. It's a grief topic. If you've lost a husband or a wife, the last thing you needed in that fog was paperwork. So if some of this slipped past you, that is not a failure on your part. The system simply doesn't tell you, and today we fix that together. First, let me be honest with you about one thing. This is general information, not personal financial advice. Your exact numbers depend on your age, your work history, and your late spouse's record, and only Social Security can pull up your real file. What I can do is show you how this works, so you walk into that call knowing exactly what you're owed. So let's start with the piece almost nobody understands. When a husband or wife passes away, the surviving spouse doesn't just lose a person. They lose a Social Security check, because the household had 2 coming in, and now there's 1. But here is what the Social Security Administration says, and it's the heart of this whole thing. At your full retirement age for survivors, which falls between 66 and 67, a survivor benefit can be up to 100% of what your late spouse was receiving. Not half, the full amount. Now here's where it gets interesting, and this is the part the higher earner in a marriage almost never hears. If your spouse waited to claim, if they held off and let their own benefit grow, with what Social Security calls delayed retirement credits, those bigger numbers don't die with them. The survivor benefit includes any delayed retirement credits the deceased worker earned. In plain words, the patience your husband or wife showed, the bigger check they built by waiting, that protection passes to you. It's one of the kindest things one spouse can quietly do for the other, and most couples never even know they're doing it. So you might be wondering, when can I actually start? Let me give you the real ages, because they are more generous than people expect. A widow or widower can begin a survivor benefit as early as age 60. If you start that early, the check is reduced, somewhere between about 71.5% and 99%, depending on your exact age, but it's money in your hand sooner. If you have a disability that began before your spouse's death or within about 7 years after, you can start as early as age 50. And there's a third door most people don't know exists. If you're caring for your late spouse's child who's under 16, you can receive a survivor benefit at any age. So whether you're 60 or disabled at 50 or raising a grandchild you've taken in, there's very likely a door open to you. Now, here's the part nobody tells you, and it's the whole reason I made this video. With survivor benefits, in most cases, it does not happen automatically. Let me say that plainly, because it costs people real money. You generally have to apply. And here's the catch that trips up so many widows and widowers. You cannot do this one online. The retirement application you can do at your kitchen table. The survivor application you cannot. You have to call or go in. So a grieving spouse sits at home assuming that if they were owed something, it would just show up. And it doesn't. It waits. That's the quiet leak. That's the reduced check the woman I described at the very start is living on. Not because anyone cheated her, but because nobody handed her the one phone call. We're about to fix that. But before I give you that call, there's one more piece that turns this from a little extra into thousands of dollars, and I'd be doing you a disservice to skip it. Here is something the Social Security Administration confirms that is unusual and powerful. A survivor benefit and your own retirement benefit are 2 separate things. You don't get both stacked on top of each other. You get to take the higher one. But here's the gift. You don't have to take them at the same time, and you don't have to choose forever on day one. You can take one now and let the other grow. Let me make that real. Say you're 60, recently widowed, and you also worked and earned your own Social Security. You could start your survivor benefit now, leave your own retirement benefit untouched, and let it keep growing year after year until it hits its maximum at age 70. Then, at 70, you switch over to your own larger check. You collected money for 10 years you'd otherwise have left on the table, and you still end up with the biggest possible benefit at the end. Or you can flip it, take your own smaller benefit early, and let the survivor benefit grow toward that full 100%. The reason this works for survivors and not for most other people is a rule called deemed filing, and it simply does not apply to survivor benefits. You don't have to understand the rule. You just have to know the door is open and that an ordinary widow or widower is allowed to walk through it. One honest limitation, because this channel always gives you the full picture. Which order is right for you? Survivor first or your own first? Depends on whose benefit is larger and how long you expect to live, and nobody can hand you that date in advance. That's exactly why your call isn't to a stranger or a salesman. It's to Social Security itself, who can look at your actual numbers and tell you which path pays more. And it costs nothing to ask. So here it is, the one phone call I promised you at the very start, and the exact thing to say. This is the thing I said I'd walk you to, and we're here. You call Social Security directly at 1-800-772-1213. That's the official national number. Or you go into your local Social Security office, and when a real person picks up, here's the sentence. You say, "My spouse has passed away. I want to apply for survivor benefits, and I want to know whether I should take my survivor benefit or my own retirement benefit first to get the most money over my lifetime." That's it. That one sentence does two jobs. It opens your survivor claim, the one you can't do online, and it forces the conversation about which benefit to take first, the conversation worth thousands. Write that number and that sentence down now, or have a grandchild write it on a card by the phone. A couple of gentle, honest notes so nobody gets hurt. Have your late spouse's Social Security number and a death certificate handy if you can. It makes the call smoother. And know that remarrying before age 60 can affect survivor benefits, so if that's your situation, ask about it directly on that same call. They've heard every situation. There is no wrong question. So let's bring this home. When a spouse dies, the survivor can claim a survivor benefit of up to 100% of what their husband or wife was receiving, including the bigger numbers they earned by waiting. You can start as early as 60 or 50 if you're disabled, or any age if you're raising their child. It usually does not happen on its own. You have to apply, and the survivor claim is the one you cannot do online. And because you can take one benefit now and let the other grow, the difference over a lifetime can be enormous. This is not a loophole. It is money the law already set aside with your name on it. Remember that widow I described at the very beginning, getting by on the smaller check, with no idea that hundreds of dollars a month had her name on it? Picture her now, after one phone call. Same kitchen, same morning coffee, but a larger check landing each month because she finally raised her hand and asked. That's the whole difference. Not luck, not a windfall. Just one call and one sentence that someone should have handed her years ago. Today somebody handed it to you. If this helped you, or if it brought to mind a widow or widower in your life who might be living on less than they're owed, do me a favor and tap the like button and send this to them. It costs you nothing, and it might put real money back in someone's pocket who needs it. And take a look at the video on screen next, where I walk through the Social Security claiming age decision and the 30% so many people give up by claiming too early. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.